Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to TradeScope. I'm Luis Garcia. I'm a part-time trader. This video series is to share with you some of the things on my watch list for the coming week, as well as some of the trades that I took this week. One last thing before we get started, I'd just like to mention that this video is for educational purposes only. This is not to be meant as financial advice. Okay, so with that said, I'd like to get started. This week, my big trade of the week was NVDA. I did take another trade. We'll get into that in a little bit. But the trade that I took on NVDA was a little bit different than what I'm used to doing. I took an options trade. So I'm not the wisest in the bunch when it comes to options trading, but I did okay on this trade, and I'm kind of happy about that. So let's see. The week started on, let's pull up the daily, not the weekly. All right, there we go. So the week started for NVIDIA on, let's take a look at the calendar. It started on Monday, October 7th. So on this day right here, let's see if I can get my drawing tools out. We'll hit it with the ellipse. So the week started right there on that candle. So the first thing I noticed, I have NVIDIA on my watch list, so I keep an eye on it pretty much every day to see what it's doing. First thing I noticed is that near the end of the day, it was making a big push for 130, and as you can see, it's failed at 130 in the past. This was back in the August time frame, right there, and it failed at 130 in the past, and so it looked like it was testing it again. The next high looking left was 136.15, so I knew it had room if it could break 130, and I decided that there was potentially more profit in taking an options trade than just piling into a regular day trade or swing trade. So what I did on Monday, actually, as I saw that it was starting to break 130, I put an options order in for a 130 strike price on a November 8th expiration at $7, and it ended up getting filled as it kind of sold off into the close that day. And then the next day, so basically, here, let me get some lines out. We'll get the doodle, make it nice and bold, color everybody can see. So basically, I got into the options trade right there, and the next day I got out right around as it broke 132, I think it was. I've been reading a little bit about options lately, so I figured I'd jump into this options trade and see if I could apply some of the things that I learned. I wanted to kind of talk to you about some of the things that I learned because I thought they were kind of interesting. So first of all, that was the trade. I made good money. I bought two options at a strike price, at a price of $7, and I sold them. I think they were sold at like $8.80. As you can see, NVIDIA kept ripping higher for the rest of the week, and I believe they are currently trading at like $10 for that option. So I have that chart up here. Here it is. On the 7th, that's the day I got in. I got in at $7 right here. You can see it closed a little lower. And then the next day, it ripped up to $9.80 at some point, but I sold right about here at $8.80. So it was still a decent profit. Two options contracts sold for $1.80. That was around $360 profit. So I was really excited about that for an options trade. Like I said, I'm not the best at trading options. I just dabble in them, and I was very happy with what I got out of that trade. So I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about more of the mechanics of how I did that trade. So let's see if we could take a look at what I was using. So I was studying the Greeks for options, and I learned about these options calculators that are out there. I'm sure I'm not the first to know about this. I'm surprised I went this long without using an options calculator. But so this is a bar chart options calculator, and I just put in the option type, the expiration date, the strike price that I was in it, and it gave me some. It gave me a bunch of data. So the first thing that I was looking at was the theoretical price. So at the time, I believe it was on Tuesday after I was an owner of the two contracts, it was showing me a theoretical price of $7.93. So basically like an $8 theoretical price. What the theoretical price really means is that at exactly when the price of the underlying stock, NVIDIA, hits exactly $130 on that day, the theoretical price of the contract that I owned was $8. Now, I owned it for a price of $7, so that was already $1 profit. The other interesting thing that I like about these calculators is it gives you these Greek values. So the ones that I pay attention to the most are delta, gamma, vega, and theta. And let's see if I could remember all this from the top of my head. So delta is the change in price for the options contract for every dollar change of the underlying asset. So what that means is that if NVIDIA is trading at a price of $131, then the theoretical price will go up by about 64 cents. So that means that theoretically, if the price of NVIDIA opens up on Monday at $131, then there should be then the theoretical price of NVIDIA contract at this expiration and this strike price will be about $10.50, right? The 990 plus 64, so around $10.53, something like that. So that's kind of what I used to figure out what price I was going to get out, right? At the time, I think the delta was around 50 cents and the theoretical price was around 80 cents. The stock was trading at just around 130, 131. It had gotten rejected at 130 in the past in August, as we just saw on that other chart. So I wasn't really trying to risk a lot. I wanted to just get a profit, get in, get out. And so at the time, the theoretical price was $8 and the delta was about 50 cents. So I figured if it goes up to 132, then I can expect express the contract to go up to around $9, and that's exactly what happened. It hit a high of 132 just about Tuesday morning, and then it started to pull back a little bit, and the price of the contract that I owned hit just about $9. So I sold it as it pulled back, and I got out at around $8.80. Again, $1.80 profit for each contract. I had two contracts at $360 when you times each contract by 100 shares. So yeah, I was really impressed by that, and it was just something interesting that I thought I'd share with the channel since I'm just learning about these contracts, all of these like nitty-gritty details of options contracts and seeing what I can do, how I can put them into use. And I was impressed with what I could do with just a simple options calculator. So yeah, that's what the delta is. The gamma, I believe, is the change in delta with every $1 change in stock price. So every time the underlying stock price goes up, if this opens on Monday at $131, then you can expect the delta to go up by about 2 cents, right? Maybe 2.1 cents, something like that. So you can expect delta to go to 65 cents, right? Vega is a similar thing, except it's the change in volatility. I believe it's implied volatility. The change in implied volatility for every $1 change in stock. If the implied volatility, here it is right here, I think, is 48%, I think that should go up. This is what I'm not sure about. Does this mean 13% or 0.13%? I'm not sure. I think it's 13%. So it'd be 13.6%. So you could expect if this opens up at 131, it's really going to open up much higher. I think it's going to open up at the 135 range. I think it is, right? So yeah, like right about there is, so it got to a high of 135.78 on Friday. Then it pulled back into the 134s. So we'll see, but it's definitely going to open much higher. Anyways, that's what Vega is supposed to mean. Change in implied volatility per $1 change in the underlying price of the stock. And then theta is the change in time decay. So you can expect, I think this is per day, it's going to lose change in price is going to be roughly 13 cents, a negative 13 cents for every day you get closer to the options expiration date. I'm not sure what row is. I know I read about it. I also know that it wasn't important for most trades, so I didn't really commit it to memory. But I think I'm correct on all the rest. If I'm not, feel free to leave a comment and let me know how you use the Greeks to trade options if you're an options trader. Okay, so moving on, I wanted to talk a little bit about LUNR, L-U-N-R. Whoops, L-U-N-R. So LUNR was an interesting trade this week. So it was on my watch list. Let me get this, just clear these drawings real quick. Come on, it's not what I want to do. There we go. Okay. So, LUNR was on my watch list. I did take a trade on it. I did not make money on that trade. I ended up stopping out. So let's talk about the trade that I took. We'll draw a couple trend lines and we'll see what happened. We'll do a continuous. There's one trend line and there's another trend line connecting the lows. You know, I don't like how thick those lines are, so let's go a little thinner. Let's do something like that. Perfect. And connect the lows. And as you can see, we have this kind of falling wedge pattern. So what happened with LUNR? Well, let's find out. So again, the week opened on the 7th, looking at the calendar. My entry price for this was, if the price broke the high of the previous week, which was $7.75, okay? It broke that high, so I got in. I think I got in with 250 shares, if I remember correctly. Now, I was watching these levels, right? I was watching this underlying support trend line, and I was also watching this underlying resistance trend line. And you can see, you can see that the day that it broke 775, it came all the way up, tested that $8 psychological resistance level, and it also tested that that descending trend line resistance value, and sellers rejected it, so it got sold off, and I think it ended up hitting a low the next day of $6.70. Now, I happened to be busy, so I wasn't watching it that day when it hit that low. Otherwise, I probably would have stopped out right there, because my stop was, I was looking at a stop. Just get an ellipse here. So there's that day right there. I was looking at a stop if it hit that trend line. By the time I looked at it, though, it had already been bought up above that trend line, and I said, well, let's see if it tries, to stay in that channel, because right now it looks like it rejected that support, And if it stays in that channel, then, I'll sell it for a small loss and just get out of the position, right? And that's exactly what it ended up doing. So the next couple days, it went back and tried to retest that high on Friday. It closed up near 770 and right up near that resistance trend line level. And I was able to get out, I think, in the 760s. So I took a small loss on it. It was like $30, something like that. So, sometimes you can't win them all. So the smart thing is to get out when you can and try to minimize your losses. Always manage risk. That is the first rule of being a trader. Profits come, but the first rule is always managing your risk. So I feel like I managed risk pretty well on this trade. There's always the potential to get back into it. Look what happened on Friday. It's tested that high of that resistance trend line, and now it might potentially break through that trend line. And if it does, I might take a trade on it. I'll probably watch it above 8. I think that was the last time it got rejected. So if it could break through that level, then I will take a trade above 8. So my entry will probably be right above around $8, something like that. Right around there. I'll probably enter, and then, maybe we'll get something where it kind of tests, it breaks above this. Get out of here. Maybe we'll get something where it breaks above this line, and then it might test it. Right here, it might break above and then test this trend line a little bit. But what I'd like to see is it break right through that, right through this last high. Let's get the cross line back up here, just so we can look at. Sometimes these tools just do not cooperate with me. There we go. So yeah, maybe above 8, I'll be a buyer, and then I'll be looking for the breaks of the highs looking left. So the next one is 822, 875, 898, so right about $9. So that would really be a good trade, in my opinion. Is $8 would be the entry. You could keep you could keep a stop loss at around this level, right? If it breaks below that, if it breaks back below that trend line, that would be a good stop loss. If it breaks way down below 670, that would be another stop loss. The point is, though, is that whatever your stop loss is, you want to have 1.5 to 2 times that for a profit target. And that would pretty much be my profit target. I'd really be looking at least for the break of 9, to make it worth it, to make the trade worth it. And then, yeah, maybe it might go higher. Maybe it might break 10 too. Because as you can see, way back in, what was this? February of this year, it hit a big high of $13. I think they have earnings coming up. Yep, looks like they're coming up on the 13th, maybe. Something like that. And just a little bit about the company. I wanted to keep this up so we can go over that. So the company's name is Intuitive Machines. They're in aerospace and defense. It's a space company. They do commercial. I think they've done some contracts with NASA too, if I remember correctly. Just read a little bit about this. Lunar Access Services, Orbital Services, Lunar Data Services, and Space Products and Infrastructure. Its Orbital Services segment is designed to support satellites and stations in Earth and lunar orbits. Orbital Services consist of leveraging its technologies and government funds to establish a foothold in capturing the growing orbital services market. So a lot of technical gobbledygook. which is not surprising with the aerospace and defense industry. Right now they got a price target from 12 days ago at $10 a share. They have a huge NASA contract. When was this news released? About a month ago, so back in September. They released news about the NASA contract. I think that must be why, 19th right here. So that's exactly why it gapped up. So it looks like it's still running on that news. Maybe more news will come. Maybe it'll have a technical breakout that still sustains that move. That's possible, given it does have a NASA contract, does it say? $4 billion NASA contract. Wow. So I think that justifies a $10 to $12 price range. When it'll happen, who knows, right? I think we need to let the technicals play out just like how we talked about, but I do think it's possible. So yeah, I'm keeping this on my watch list. We'll see what happens. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about? So we'll go over some of the other things that are on my watch list. It's kind of getting big, but I don't want it to take up too much time because I didn't take any trades on these. But Plug, I'm still watching it above 230. It kind of had a big day on Friday. I don't think it had much news, really. Let's see. Big investor doubles down. Okay, so they got an investor. Central Bank of Norway now owns about 88 million Plug shares, about 8% of the total stock outstanding. So, that's something to think about. Obviously, if it has large institutional ownership, then you can expect the stock to go up, right? But I'm really waiting for that break of $2.30. Want to see that, right? Want to see this inverse head and shoulders play out. So that's really it for Plug. NNE was another one that's been on my watch list. Let's take a look at this. So NNE, come on. So if you remember, we drew this trend line channel. It's just trading at the support level of that trend line. We want to see, can it hold that trend line? If it does, maybe a trade back above 20. Some good entries there are maybe a trade above 20 there. Oh, now it gives me the doodle. Dang it. Let's draw our channel. And now let's look and see what we got. So above 20 is a possibility, right? That's a possible entry. Another possible entry is break of last week, so that looks like it's around 1850. Would be a good spot right there. And then we'd be watching to make sure that it doesn't break the bottom of this channel. If it breaks the bottom of that channel, that's a good stop. Another good stop is the low. So it looks like the low is $15.20. Yeah, $15.20. So anywhere below that would be a good stop. Definitely still on my watch list. We'll see what happens. I believe they just started trading options too. So that's something to keep an eye on. I think they're only quarterly options, so they only expire like in January and then April, something like that. But something to keep an eye on, the options, as I learn more about those and just to see what they indicate about the direction of the stock. That's really it for NNE. The last thing I wanted to talk about was Fubo, because if I remember, I thought I saw Fubo making some pretty big moves on Friday. So Fubo, we got a lot drawn on Fubo. So we have this big kind of descending wedge here, right there, right there. There's the support, there's the resistance. It broke through that on Thursday, Friday. It's got to overcome the 200 moving average, right? But if it does, it's got room up to that 186 level. And really, that's the original level I was looking to be a buyer at, was that 186 level. So I still think that's kind of what I'm looking for. I want to see it break 186, and then I'll get into it over that 186 level for a move above $2. That's really what I want to see happen with that stock, with this move. It's good though. It's got volume coming in. The RSI looks good. Momentum indicator is starting to flip over. So that's good that the MACD is starting to show a little bit of strength. Not much, but it's the first kind of indication of strength since this big move happened. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Fubo. It's still on the watch list. Still something interesting to keep an eye on. But that's pretty much everything that I have for this week. I don't want to ramble on. I try to keep these videos short, but we had a lot to cover this week, and I want to hear what you guys think. So if you see this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and please leave a comment below with anything that you might want to see, or anything, maybe you're trading the same stocks that I'm trading. What's your input on this analysis? What other analysis would you like to maybe talk about? Anything you got, I am definitely open to hear and talk about more. All right, well, thanks guys for tuning in. This is TradeScope, and see you next time.